The arena didn't hear it at first. No announcement, no press release, just whispers spreading faster than the buzzer ever could. Angel Reese was gone. Not benched, not cooling off. Gone. After the suspension, after the fouls, after the meltdown that turned every Chicago Sky game into a public trial. One moment she was the face of the franchise, marketed as the future, defended at all costs. The next, her locker sat untouched, tension hanging in the air like smoke after an explosion. Teammates avoided eye contact. Coaches spoke in clipped sentences. And the league office, completely silent. This wasn't a trade rumor. This wasn't social media noise. This was the kind of exit that only happens when something breaks behind closed doors. 8 technical fouls. A suspension so embarrassing it became a punchline. A locker room already cracked, finally splintering under pressure. Angel Reese didn't just clash with ref, she clashed with expectations, authority, and the people who were supposed to have her back. And now, Chicago was left scrambling, trying to explain how their biggest star slipped through their fingers in the middle of chaos. Fans were stunned. Critics were ruthless. Supporters were furious. Some called it accountability. Others called it betrayal. But everyone felt the same thing: shock. Because this wasn't just about fouls or discipline. This felt personal. This felt final. And as the silence grew louder, one terrifying question echoed through the WNBA. What really happened that forced Angel Reese to walk away? Angel Reese didn't arrive in Chicago quietly. She arrived like a storm that already knew its name would be shouted before the thunder hit. From LSU to the WNBA, she carried a reputation that was bigger than box scores, confidence mistaken for defiance, fire mislabeled as ego, emotion framed as a problem instead of a fuel. Chicago didn't just draft her, they sold her. Billboards, interviews, jerseys everywhere. She was branded as the face of the rebuild before she even learned where the exits were in the arena, and with that crown came pressure so heavy it started bending everything around her. Inside the locker room, the energy was never simple. Teammates respected her hustle, the rebounding, the relentless motor, but there was tension underneath, quiet, unspoken, growing. Angel played like every possession was a statement, like she was proving something not just to opponents, but to the league itself. Every missed layup felt louder, every whistle felt personal, every look from the bench felt like judgment. And instead of shrinking, she leaned into it harder. Louder celebrations, sharper words, less patience. Chicago's front office loved the attention until it turned on them. When losses stacked up, the questions shifted. Was Angel leading, or just demanding? Was she elevating teammates, or calling them out? Privately, frustration simmered. Publicly, the organization tried to smile through it. But the cracks were visible. Body language on the court, cold shoulders after games, meetings that ended with more silence than solutions. Angel felt it. She always did. And it fed the chip on her shoulder that never really left after college. Then came the technical fouls. 1, 2, 3. Each one adding to a narrative that followed her everywhere. Emotional, uncontrollable, a problem. Never mind the missed calls. Never mind the physical play she absorbed nightly. The league didn't see context. It saw numbers. And those numbers kept climbing until suspension talk wasn't hypothetical anymore. Angel felt targeted. Chicago felt embarrassed. Teammates felt caught in the middle. The Tribune article was the breaking point. Words meant to express ambition landed like accusations. Names mentioned. Futures questioned. Leadership challenged. Inside that locker room, trust snapped. Players, read it. Coaches, read it. And suddenly, Angel Reese wasn't just fighting opponents, she was standing alone, wondering when the room stopped being hers. The suspension that followed wasn't just punishment, it was a message, and Angel heard it loud and clear by the time she packed her bag. This wasn't about basketball anymore. It was about pride, identity, and a feeling that Chicago wanted the brand but not the person. As she walked away, the past followed her like a shadow, whispering the same question that's haunted her career. Was she pushed out? Or did she finally refuse to be quiet again? The moment everything detonated wasn't the suspension itself, it was how it happened. Half a game, 20 minutes, not even enough time to cool down, but just enough to humiliate. Around the league, executives laughed, players side-eyed it, fans turned it into memes before the official statement finished loading. Chicago thought they were sending a message. What they actually did was light a match in a room full of gasoline and lock the doors. Angel Reese didn't find out in a quiet meeting. She found out the same way everyone else did, through a phone vibrating nonstop with notifications, screenshots, and laughing emoji. Half a game. Teammates texted, "Is this real?" Reporters started circling. ESPN cheered it like breaking news. The message was clear without being said. Chicago wanted discipline without consequences, authority without accountability, and Angel felt played. Inside the practice facility, the air was toxic. Coaches avoided eye contact. Veterans whispered. Younger players stared at the floor. When Angel finally walked in, the room went silent. No claps, no nods, just tension so thick it felt like it could be cut with a fingernail. She asked a simple question: why half? No one answered. That silence said more than any fine print ever could. Then the first shocking twist hit. Instead of sulking, Angel practiced like someone preparing for war. Harder cuts, louder calls. Every rebound slammed down like punctuation. She wasn't trying to prove she belonged, she was trying to remind them who they built this thing around. But halfway through, a staffer pulled her aside. Not to talk basketball, not to talk strategy, to talk optics, to talk tone, to talk about how this looks. That's when it clicked. This wasn't about fouls. This wasn't about leadership. This wasn't even about that Tribune article anymore. This was about control. Chicago didn't want a star who spoke freely. They wanted a symbol they could manage, a face that smiled on cue, a fire they could turn on for marketing and off for comfort. And Angel Reese was never going to be that. Hours later, the leak dropped. Multiple sources told reporters that the locker room meeting had gone sideways. Voices raised, fingers pointed. One teammate allegedly said, "Angel made it about herself." Another shot back that management had been throwing her under the bus all season. By the time it ended, sides were drawn and Angel was standing on the wrong one. Then came the call. Not from the head coach, not from the GM, from an agent. Short, direct, dangerous. You need to prepare for options. Translation: Chicago is already planning life without you. That night, Angel posted nothing. No tweets, no cryptic quotes, no emojis. Silence louder than any rant. Meanwhile, the league buzzed. Caitlin Clark's name trended for her play. Angel Reese's trended for chaos. Analysts debated whether she was toxic or just too real. Former players defended her. Others piled on. The narrative spun out of control. And then, just past midnight, the second shoe dropped. A respected insider reported that Angel Reese had requested internal clarification about her role moving forward, and did not like the answer she got. The words long-term fit were used. So was culture. Corporate language masking a hard truth. They were already moving on. That's when Angel made her move. She cleared her locker. No cameras, no announcement, just empty space where her nameplate used to be. By morning, photos leaked. Fans panicked. Chicago issued a vague statement about cooling off periods. Angel's camp said nothing until a single line hit social media from someone close to her circle. "You don't punish your star and expect her to stay quiet." The league froze. Because this wasn't a trade rumor. This wasn't a benching. This was the unthinkable. Angel Reese wasn't just suspended, she was done playing along. And as Chicago scrambled to contain the fallout, one question echoed everywhere from locker rooms to front offices. Did the Sky just suspend their star? Or did they push her out for good? Did the Sky just suspend their star? Or did they push her out for good? By the next morning, Chicago wasn't just leaking, it was flooding. What started as a half-game suspension had metastasized into a full-blown franchise crisis. Phones rang nonstop inside the Sky front office. Agents called, league officials checked in unofficially, and every single conversation carried the same unspoken fear. "This is getting bigger than us, Angel." Reese still hadn't said a word publicly, and that silence was eating people alive. Because when Angel goes quiet, it's never weakness, it's calculation. Teammates noticed she was gone from group chats. Equipment staff noticed her locker untouched. Social media managers noticed something even more terrifying. Engagement spiking without her posting anything at all. Her name alone was driving the algorithm into a frenzy. Then the footage surfaced. A short clip from inside the practice facility. Grainy but explosive. Angel, walking out early, headphones in, no interaction with coaches, no goodbye to teammates, just straight through the tunnel like someone who already knew she wasn't coming back. Within minutes, WNBA Twitter went feral. "She's done. Chicago lost her. This is a breakup." Even rival fan bases smelled blood. Chicago tried to regain control. A hastily arranged media availability, vague phrases, internal matter, miscommunication. Angel remains a vital part of our future. But nobody believed it, because if she was so vital, why was she being disciplined like a college freshman? Why was management briefing reporters while the locker room was imploding? Why did players keep liking tweets that questioned the suspension? That's when the second major twist detonated. A respected national reporter dropped a bombshell. Multiple teams had already reached out to Angel Reese's representation, not about trades, not about buyouts, but about availability. Not next season. Now, quiet conversations, hypotheticals. If things go left, we're ready. The league office noticed immediately. You don't just explore options like that unless something irreversible is brewing. Inside the Sky locker room, the tension finally snapped. A closed-door meeting turned hostile. Veterans questioned leadership. Younger players questioned direction. One voice reportedly said what everyone was thinking, but no one dared to admit. We keep protecting the organization. But who's protecting us? Angel wasn't even in the room and she still dominated it. Every argument circled back to her. Every frustration traced back to how management handled her. And then came the betrayal that nobody saw coming. A quote appeared in the preset, but unmistakably internal, suggesting Angel's on-court production doesn't justify the distractions. That line hit like a slap. Rebounds dismissed. Effort minimized. Narrative rewritten in real time. The same franchise that marketed her as the future was now quietly downgrading her value to save face. Angel saw it. This time, she responded. One Instagram story, black background, white text, no hash, just 8 words that felt like a warning shot across the league. Respect works both ways. I know my worth. That was it. Within an hour, current players reposted it. Former players defended her on podcasts. Even athletes from other leagues chimed in. The conversation shifted instantly from Angel crossed a line to why is Chicago fumbling this so badly. League politics crept into the open. Whispers about control. About silencing outspoken stars. About who gets labeled passionate and who gets labeled problematic. And then the phone call came, the one that changed everything. Angel's camp informed Chicago that she would not participate in any further team activities until clarity was provided about her role, her treatment, and her future. Not a trade demand, not a resignation, a standoff, a power move, the kind that forces organizations to choose sides. Chicago hesitated. That hesitation was fatal, because in the WNBA, hesitation gets interpreted as weakness. Players noticed, agents noticed, and most importantly, the rest of the league noticed. The Sky had tried to discipline their star quietly. Instead, they'd exposed a fracture that everyone could see. By nightfall, Angel Reese's exit was trending harder than game highlights. Analysts debated whether this was the beginning of player empowerment or a warning about outspoken stars. Fans weren't split, they were furious. Furious at Chicago, furious at the optics, furious that a half-game suspension had spiraled into a potential, franchise-altering moment. And hanging over it all was one chilling reality. If Angel Reese walked away now, whether temporarily or permanently, it wouldn't just be Chicago losing a star. It would be the league losing control. Because the next move wasn't Chicago's to make anymore, it was hers. And whatever Angel Reese decided to do next was about to shake the WNBA in ways nobody was prepared for. By the time the sun came up, the WNBA wasn't talking about games anymore. It wasn't talking about standings, injuries, or playoff races. It was talking about Angel Reese and whether the Chicago Sky had just detonated their own future in real time. The fallout hit fast, and it hit everywhere. Fans woke up furious, not divided, furious. Sky supporters felt betrayed, embarrassed, and confused. How does a franchise suspend its most marketable star for half a game? Leak locker room complaints, then act shocked when the situation explodes. Jerseys flooded resale sites. Season ticket holders posted screenshots of cancellation emails. One viral tweet summed up the mood perfectly. Chicago didn't discipline Angel. They disrespected her. That post alone racked up hundreds of thousands of likes in hours. Twitter became a war zone. Some accounts tried to frame Angel as difficult. Others immediately shut that down, pointing to the double standard. Passion in some players is called leadership. In Angel Reese, it's labeled a problem. Former players jumped in, openly criticizing the Sky's front office for mishandling a young star in the middle of a rebuild. One retired all-star didn't mince words on a podcast. If you don't know how to manage personalities, don't draft them. The league office stayed silent. That silence was loud. No statement, no clarification, no attempt to cool things down. That vacuum allowed speculation to spiral. Was the suspension even about the comments anymore? Or was it about control, about sending a message, about reminding players who really runs things? Fans connected dots the league didn't want connected, and once that happens, you don't get the narrative back. Inside Chicago, the emotional damage was obvious. Players stopped defending management publicly. Media answers got shorter. Eye contact disappeared. On the bench, cameras caught moments that felt off, forced claps. Delayed reactions, chemistry that looked staged instead of natural. You could feel the discomfort through the screen. This wasn't a team dealing with adversity together. This was a team walking on eggshells, wondering who might be next. Angel Reese, meanwhile, became bigger by doing less. She didn't go on a rant. She didn't do a sit-down interview. She didn't explain herself. And that restraint made her more powerful. Every move she didn't make fueled discussion. Every post she didn't write created space for others to speak for her. And they did. Loudly. Sponsors noticed. Marketing insiders started whispering that Angel's name recognition was now surpassing the team itself. Engagement metrics told a brutal story. Posts about the Sky struggled. Posts about Angel exploded. From a business standpoint, it was a nightmare. From a cultural standpoint, it was a reckoning. The player was outgrowing the franchise. And everyone could see it. Then came the league-wide reaction. Other teams' fan bases didn't just watch, they projected. If this is how Chicago treats their star, why would anyone sign there? Imagine being a free agent looking at this chaos. This is why players leave. The Sky weren't just damaging themselves, they were becoming a cautionary tale. Media coverage turned unforgiving. Headlines stopped asking what Angel did wrong and started asking what Chicago did wrong. Analysts replayed the timeline over and over. Public criticism, bizarre suspension, anonymous leaks, delayed response. Each step made the franchise look smaller, more reactive, less competent, and in a league fighting for credibility, less competent, and in a league fighting for credibility and growth. That kind of optics is poison. Angel's teammates were caught in the middle. Some felt hurt by her comments. Others felt management escalated something that could have been handled privately. That divide didn't heal, it hardened. And once a locker room fractures like that, winning stops mattering. Every loss feels heavier. Every mistake feels personal. Every silence feels intentional. By the end of the week, one thing was undeniable. This wasn't just a bad PR moment. It was an emotional implosion rippling through fans, players, media, and the league itself. The Sky had tried to discipline quietly. Instead, they exposed every insecurity they had about leadership, direction, and their ability to handle a star who refuses to shrink. Angel Reese wasn't just at the center of the fallout. She was the fallout. And as the noise kept growing, one terrifying question hovered over Chicago like a storm cloud they couldn't outrun. What happens if Angel Reese decides she's done explaining herself and starts making decisions instead? Just when everyone thought the chaos had peaked, the story took a turn that nobody inside the Chicago Sky front office was prepared for. And this is where everything shifted from messy to dangerous. Late that night, while the league was still pretending nothing was wrong, one quiet detail slipped out through insiders close to the situation. Angel Reese didn't leave the arena angry. She didn't storm out. She didn't yell. She didn't even argue. She walked out calm, and in professional sports, calm is never a good sign, because anger can be negotiated, emotion can be spun, but calm means a decision has already been made. According to multiple league sources, Angel had already begun distancing herself from Chicago weeks before the suspension ever became public. The technical fouls, the missed calls, the subtle blame shifting from the front office, the whispers to the media, all of it added up. The half-game suspension wasn't the cause, it was the confirmation. That punishment didn't discipline her, it freed her. Behind the scenes, agents started taking calls immediately, not exploratory calls, serious ones, teams with cap flexibility, teams with veteran leadership, teams that know how to manage stars instead of trying to control them. And suddenly, the same personality Chicago couldn't handle became an asset everywhere else. Then came the moment that sent shockwaves through the league. Angel Reese reportedly told people close to her one sentence that changed everything: "I'm not fighting for a place that doesn't want me." That wasn't frustration, that was closure. And the timing couldn't have been worse for Chicago, because the Sky didn't just suspend Angel, they suspended trust. Free agents noticed, players noticed. And when players stop believing in leadership, the locker room doesn't just crack, it collapses quietly from the inside. Meanwhile, the league office began scrambling. Not publicly, privately, because Angel Reese isn't just a player. She's a lightning rod. She moves ratings. She moves headlines. She moves conversation. And the idea of her leaving a franchise in flames after a disciplinary fiasco is the exact kind of narrative the WNBA cannot afford right now. But here's the twist: no one expected. Angel didn't threaten a trade. She didn't demand one. She didn't leak anything herself. She let the silence speak. And that silence did more damage than any interview ever could. Cameras caught it. Teammates felt it. Coaches sensed it. That spark, that edge, that fire that made Angel it wasn't gone. It was redirected. Inward, controlled, waiting. The sky thought they were setting boundaries. What they actually did was signal weakness. Because stars don't respond to half measures. They respond to respect. And once that's gone, there's no suspension long enough to fix it. Now the rumors are accelerating. Trade talks this offseason, almost certain. Angel testing the market sooner than expected. Possible. Chicago trying to walk back decisions they already made. Too late. And here's the most brutal part. If Angel Reese leaves Chicago, she doesn't leave quietly. She leaves as proof. Proof that mishandling talent has consequences. Proof that culture matters. Proof that you can't build a franchise around a player's image, then punish her for being exactly who she's always been. The suspension was supposed to restore order. Instead, it may have marked the beginning of the end. Because as the league watches, as fans argue, and as Chicago tries to regain control of a narrative that's already escaped them, one question is hanging in the air, unanswered and terrifying. What happens when Angel Reese stops trying to fit in, and starts choosing where she belongs? And now the real power shifts to you. Because stories like this don't end on the court, they end in the comments. In the clicks. In the pressure fans apply when leagues try to control the narrative. Instead of fixing the problem, was Angel Reese wrong for speaking her truth? Or was Chicago wrong for trying to silence the very player they marketed as their future? This isn't just about one suspension. It's about how stars are treated when they stop playing the role they're assigned. It's about whether the WNBA is ready for players who won't shrink, won't soften, and won't stay quiet just to keep executives comfortable. If Angel Reese leaves Chicago, remember this moment. Remember the half-game suspension. Remember the locker room tension. Remember how fast face of the franchise turned into problem to manage. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think Angel Reese is being unfairly targeted? Or do you think Chicago finally had enough? Should she stay and fight, or walk away and reset her career somewhere else? Drop your take in the comments. No offense. Like the video if you want real, unfiltered WNBA breakdowns. Subscribe if you're tired of PR spin and want the truth behind the headlines. Turn on notifications because this story is not over, and when the next move happens, you'll hear it here first, because whether you love Angel Reese or criticize her, one thing is undeniable. The league is changing, the power dynamic is shifting, and the next chapter is going to shake everything. Stay locked in. Stay locked in.